and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Ignite with Mwangala. With me, Mwangala Chakalashi Santos. Now today we have something that obviously a lot of us would be scared if you were told today that you're HIV positive. But yes, we have an HIV advocate who is also a fitness fanatic and helping people that are HIV positive to live fit or to, in fact, to live a normal life. She's no other than Duba Sakala. Duba, welcome to Ignite with Mwangala.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you on this show.
And it's my pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, obviously, before we talk about what you're doing and obviously your status, especially that we're in the month of December where, you know, the whole world is commemorating the HIV/AIDS Day, let's maybe talk about who Duba Sakala is briefly.
Okay. So, well, every time I get asked that question, I don't have much to say about myself. But, well, Duba Sakala is just a simple person. Well, born in 1976, married to Edward Nkonde, has 2 children. And by profession, initially she was in IT, but now she's doing community work.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a bit about Duba Sakala.
Wow. You've forgotten one very important part. A fitness fanatic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Duba loves fitness.
Yes.
So Duba loves fitness.
Yeah, I've been talking about when you were born and looking at you, somebody would not believe that you're actually 45 years old.
Exactly. That's what people tell me.
Yeah. So is it just fitness or do you have a special diet?
And I get that question a lot. A lot of people feel like people who are into fitness tend not to eat certain foods or tend to starve themselves because they feel like fitness has to do with diets and so on. But personally, my fitness lifestyle is the motto that we use, for us, people who do this, we say eat and burn. So you eat anything, but eat in moderation.
Okay.
And then you burn it out with exercise. So for you, you need to maintain a balance between what you're eating and how much that you're burning. So you eat anything. It doesn't matter, you can eat anything. So you won't have this diet to say, no, don't take carbs, don't take sugar, don't take this and that, because of course most people are like that when it comes to issues of fitness. They'll look at diet to say, no, I don't need to eat this, I don't need to eat that, because...
It's a thing where, you know, when you go to a restaurant and you order this T-bone, you know, and I like to do this, you know, and I'm chewing on it, I'm saying, please forgive me.
Exactly, and a lot of people actually feel guilty, you see.
You actually do feel guilty.
Yes, a lot of people feel guilty. They'll be eating this T-bone, and then on the back of their minds, they're feeling so guilty for eating that T-bone. And I mean, what's the benefit of you having to live that kind of lifestyle if truly it's health and fitness? Because when you define health and fitness, it's only about striking a balance, about your diet and your fitness. We have all been to school, so when we talk about health, we're talking about a balanced diet.
Exactly.
Okay? And a balanced diet will probably have different kinds of foods. Okay, so at the end of the day, it has to be balanced. But then you find that with these diets, there'll probably be crash diets. They'll maybe eliminate sugar, they'll eliminate carbohydrates, and yet we know that carbohydrates are needed for us to have energy, you see. So our bodies normally run on energy-giving foods. But you find this person has cut out carbohydrates, and the person is ever weak. There's actually somebody at the gym, a young girl at the gym, who, when she just came, she was ever weak. Every time we were doing a workout, she's looking at me. So I asked, I said, what's going on? What's wrong with you? Then there's what they're calling intermittent fasting. So she would actually come to the gym on an empty stomach,
oh my
hungry.
Goodness.
She doesn't have any energy. So during the workout, she would always be weak.
Completely.
Yeah, because she wasn't eating. So I said, is this really working for you? Because you can't work out when you come to the gym. You're ever weak. No, the diet I'm on, for now I've cut out carbohydrates. So then I said, no, it's not healthy for you.
It's not working.
It's not working for you.
Wow.
So find something that will be able to work for you. So just, I think it was on Monday. Was it Monday or last week, Friday? I asked her, because I could tell that she was now more energetic. So I said, are you still doing your intermittent fasting? She says, no, not really. So I said,
I packed it. Now,
So I said, you see, it wasn't sustainable for you because you were
Exactly.
ever weak. You couldn't wake up. But now she's even become more active in the gym
And
and
more
she's
fit.
got more energy and more fit. Yes, I was even looking at her the other day. I said, wow, this girl has become fitter than she was.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so most of these diets, really, I do not recommend them because they take away something from you and it doesn't amount to health at the end of the day.
Wow.
You see? Yeah.
Okay, so now enough for fitness. Let's go back to obviously why we invited you to come and have a chat with us on this program. Now you are a normal young girl, beautiful, and one day you
Thank you. I'm
discover.
a young girl, yes.
Of course
I'm a
you
young
are.
girl.
And obviously one day you go for a test and you discover you're HIV positive. Take us through that journey. What was that like? In fact, I'd like you to take us from the very first day that you were told you're HIV positive.
Okay.
What happened?
Yeah. So my story basically goes back to why I had to take an HIV test, because I just didn't take myself an HIV test. It was because I was asked to go for an HIV test. And why was I asked to go for an HIV test? Because I was engaged to be married to somebody, and then we had a non-sexual relationship. We had decided that we were going to wait until we were married for us to get sexually intimate. So I think we got engaged in 2000. Then 2001, we were supposed to start our marriage counseling lessons at church in January of 2001. So the requirement was that before we get married, it was quite mandatory. It was not quite, but it was mandatory at our church that you needed to do an HIV test. So we requested to go and do an HIV test. And that time, we didn't have a lot of counseling centers like we have now, where you can walk into any clinic and you find counseling facilities and HIV testing facilities. Then I think Cara counseling was the most common here in Lusaka. So we went to Cara counseling. I think it must have been like on a Wednesday. We went there, they counseled us, and they tested us. But then the results never used to come out there and then, like what they're doing now, the rapid test, where they test you and then they give you the results. So we're told to go back, I think, on a Friday. They must have been taking about 3 days or so. So, well, during that period, we had a discussion. We said, well, we haven't been intimate. You had previous sexual partners. I've also had previous sexual partners. So the chances are either both of us might come out positive or one of us might come out positive. But who will come out positive, that is something that both of us didn't know. So we had to wait. And I think I'm actually glad that now we have the rapid test, because at least you don't have that anxiety
Exactly.
of what am I going to find when I go there.
3 days was like the longest
Yes,
time,
exactly.
where you have to
see?
wait.
Yes, where you have this anxiety, like what am I going to find? Am I okay? Am I sick? So when we went, the counselor had our results in his hands, and then he said, well, I don't know whether you want me to give them to you at the same time or I give them to you separately, and then after both of you read your results, you decide whether you want to exchange your results. So I said, well, you can give me my results, give him his results, and then I'll give him my results after I see them. So he gave us our results individually. Mine was reactive. And I think without realizing it, it must have shown on my face that whatever I read on that paper was not something pleasant. So my ex-fiancé looked at me, and then the counselor asked us, said, would you like to exchange? So we exchanged. I gave him my results. He saw my results. Then he just hugged me. He said, no, it's fine. Don't worry. I'll still stay with you. I'll still marry you, and so on. So the counselor went on to do the post-counseling, yes, and basically left it in our hands, like it's up to you to go ahead and get married or not. And you, the one that is negative, is the one now that has to make a decision whether you're going to stay with this woman or not. So after that, right there and then, I didn't cry. I don't know whether it was shock, but I didn't cry.
Wow.
And we left the counseling room without me shedding a tear, without me really saying much.
You were numb, I'm guessing.
I'm guessing I was numb
Yeah.
and probably in shock at the same time, and maybe in disbelief at the same time.
But what was your life like before? You know, were you a person that would have one partner, or were you, you know?
Yes, yeah. I would have one partner, but then what happened is, after I had my child, I went more like on an abstinence break. After I had my
Firstborn child?
My firstborn child, yes. I went more like on an abstinence break. But then before that, I had one partner. After I had my child, I had one partner, but then I didn't know his HIV status. And then after that, I went on like an abstinence break. Like I wasn't going to be intimate with anyone until I get married. So the time I was meeting my ex-fiancé, all I knew is that there was my son's dad and then that partner that I had after my son's dad. So, and then my son was okay and, was just growing up as a healthy boy. So for me, what I felt was I was probably okay as well because my previous partner, the last partner I had, died in an accident. He wasn't sick, so there was no way of knowing whether he was positive or not because he died in an accident, yes. So the time that we were testing, for me really, it was difficult for me to tell whether it was the last partner I had or it was the father of my child, considering the fact that my child was okay. So, yeah.
So you basically just had two partners, two sexual partners.
Yes.
Prior to the testing.
Yes. So, as it would be, I mean, when I asked the father of my child, he said, no, me, I'm okay. I'm negative. So it pointed back to the last partner that I had, the one who died in an accident. So that's probably where I thought I got it. But then, like they tell us, like growing up in the 90s, it's possible you could have gotten exposed to maybe a razor blade or maybe needles or something like that. So then they were saying, you can't tell how you got infected. So you can't really point a finger and say, no, it was him, and so on. So for me, I just took it to say, well, I'm HIV positive, I'm HIV positive. There's really no need for me to start finding out who infected me, how did I get infected. So for me, it's just to accept the fact that I'm HIV positive and live with the fact that I'm HIV positive. So now when we went home, he didn't take me home immediately, my ex-fiancé. He decided that we go to his place first because he could tell that I wasn't okay. So when we went to his place, he went to cook in the kitchen and left me alone. So when he left me alone, I think that's when now, like...
That's when it hit.
Yeah, it hits me like, oh, so this is really what is happening. And then I broke down. So he heard me from the kitchen that I was crying. That's how he came, started comforting me and telling me, no, don't worry, I'll still marry you, despite you being HIV positive. So because I had that support system, it also kind of gave me some strength to be able now to accept, to say, okay, I have this, then
condition,
it wasn't even about it being a condition, then it was about it being a disease. What they knew about HIV was that it was a disease.
A death sentence.
A death sentence,
time,
yes. So for me, what I knew is I'm probably going to just have to start waiting until I get sick and then I die. So then, the same year of 2001, we were supposed to have our bridal shower and our wedding. Bridal shower was in October, and then wedding was supposed to have been in December. So after we discussed it with my ex-fiancé, he says, no, I'm still going to go ahead and marry you, but we'll keep it between the two of us. We'll not inform our relatives about it, but we'll inform our marriage counselors at church. So we went and told our marriage counselors, so they said, well, it's really up to the negative person to decide whether he wants to marry you. So he assured them, he said, no, I'm still going to go ahead and marry her. So then they said, well and good. So we continued with the marriage counseling. Then came October, as I was about to have my bridal shower, because my bridal shower, I remember, was on the 27th of October. Just like a few weeks before that, I fell ill. I had this persistent cough, I started losing weight, and I was quite weak. So then my ex-fiancé said, no, I think you need to go for a checkup. So we went for a checkup, and they found that, actually, one thing I forgot to mention, in 1998, when I was nursing my mother, I suffered from TB. And I probably took it that TB was
that was before you had your child? Was that before you
after I had my first child.
Okay.
Yeah, that was after I had my first child. And after I had that partner that died in an accident. Yeah, so I'd suffered from TB. Because I dated that guy in 1997, then I suffered that TB in 1998. So for me, I took it that it was probably because I was stressed. Even my family thought it was because I was stressed, because I was taking care of my mother. So they took it, no, she was stressed, she was taking care of her mother. And then growing up, I had bronchitis. So they also thought maybe it had something to do with the fact that, I had a weak chest and I used to get bronchitis when I was young. So now having a relapse in 2001, that's when now it clicked to say probably even the TB I had in 1998 was HIV related.
As a result of that.
Yeah, but then at the time we thought maybe it was the stress of taking care of my mother, and also probably maybe the fact that I had bronchitis when I was young. So now it was evident to say that must have also been HIV related, the TB that I had in 1998. So the doctor said, well, your bridal shower is just a few weeks away. If I put you on medication now, you'll be too weak during the bridal shower because TB medications are quite strong.
High.
Yes.
Now, I want you to hold that thought. When we come back, we continue talking about how then you navigate, and especially that you keep talking about your ex as your ex. You know, maybe what I would like us to find out is, did you break up as a result of your status?
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
So we take a short break, and when we come back, we continue talking about it.
All right, thanks.
We take a short break. When we come back, we continue talking to Duba Sakala, who is an HIV advocate and a fitness fanatic. Stay with us.
Na tutu. Sawa sawa. Ndabola tutu nywe tuganga dawa aba balombe. Usimbi wangu bevo.
No atate babia.
Umtoka kama mukoko kabenzi nina.
Kutakuno kamba toka kakasika coronavirus.
Ndawambira ndakwambira masiku tako ni wati mvida. Ba ushupa mara ushupa waso.
Waire mama.
Mashtaze waire.
Kuri sinto zinjemwe.
Nizi no bani machitawo waire.
Oza. Dari yowe. Iwe. Chachitika kunjengeni.
Ndaipompo nona.
Mtu wako olabereka kabotyo. Wapimponera zinjinge.
Kwakasika ulwazi. Obulwazi batata buyanze kwendenda. Tabuyanze kwanzanya. Tabuyanze zokuja nkabantu banje. Obulwazi bulajaya. Apo obulwazi batata. Tabuyanze kanukuti chindi chonse kamjani kabantu banje zokulumelesa nyanzi ape bulezi tondezo zakaina zokuteti muntu bulwazi ulabuchiswa. Zitondezo zakaina kulikuchiswa mutwe. Sini kolo mubiri kupia. Zazitondezo zakaina izi. Obulwazi bulikwabila kwinda mukusamba kumanza chinchonse ansipa amanzi clean. Apa okunana akata kwakaitwa kuti nzi cancer tiger.
Oho, hand sanitizer. Okay. Kubanga wakome naye, why? Kubanga wakome.
Remember to wash your hands with soap regularly. For more information, call 909. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health in partnership with Oxfam.
Welcome back. If you're joining us now, I am talking to Duba Sakala, who was just sharing with us how the experience was when she discovered she was HIV positive. Now, Duba, I know you were talking about how that experience was, you know, and you're talking about how then your ex-fiancé stood by you, and that seemingly was your support system that kept you going.
Yes.
Now, I was quick to note that you know, labeled him X. Why did you break up? You were telling us how that you were supposed to be on treatment for TB prior to a few weeks before your bridal shower. Yeah.
Yes.
What exactly led to him now being labeled X?
Okay. Yes. So because the doctor couldn't put me on treatment then, he said I go ahead with the bridal shower and then I would start treatment afterwards. So during the bridal shower, I was very weak, and everyone could tell that I was sick. So his family noticed that I wasn't too well. So after the bridal shower, they asked him to say, have you been for HIV testing with this girl? Because she doesn't look too well. We had already been in January, so we already knew our results. But he lied to them that no, we were not aware about our HIV status because I had not yet given him permission to disclose my status to his family. So he came back to me and told me, no, my family noticed that you're not too well, and they were saying we need to go for an HIV test. So then I said, well, we already know our HIV results, so you might as well just tell them, but let me tell my family first, and then you can go ahead and tell your family. Well, I told my family. They were very supportive. They said, well, it has happened, there's nothing much you can do about it. Now the problem came in when he told his family. So they said, no, she's lying, she knew she was positive. Especially that I was having a relapse of TB. So to them, they took it to say, for her to have had TB in 1998, she knew she was positive, and this relapse, she already knew she was positive. So she wanted to infect you. So there was all that talk about, no, she knew she was positive, she wanted to infect you, so you can't marry her. Well, he came and told me the concerns that his family had, and I said, well, it's still up to you to decide. He says, no, I'm still going to go ahead and marry you. So we're supposed to have had our wedding December of that year. Then he says, no, since the medication is too strong, you need first to recover. So let's wait until you finish your medication, and then that's when we can get married. 2002 came, I finished my medication, there was no talk about marriage. Then he was working in Fuwe then. Then I noticed that his visits to Lusaka reduced, the phone calls reduced. That time, cell phones were not
so much
as yes. So, and then the area where he was working from, they actually didn't even have network for cell phones. They only had network for, what they call, is it GPS phones? Those
GSM phones.
Yes, those Vimachani, Vima satellite phones, But according to him, they're quite expensive, because they're using some international satellite or something to make the phone calls. So he could only call maybe once a month or so. And you tell him, it's very expensive to use that phone to call you. So I was like, oh, fine. But then just the behavior, I could tell that something was going on. So when I would ask him, he said, no, I'm still going to go ahead and marry you, don't worry. But then I finished my medication, there was no talk about marriage. I asked him, he wasn't being very honest with me. He says, no, but my family just wants to come and talk to your family. Then I knew what was going on. So a day before his family came, I actually just gave him back the engagement ring. I told him, I said, if this engagement ring belongs on my finger, you'll put it back. But if it doesn't belong on my finger, then you will keep it. And then he got it back. So by him getting it back, it was already a sign that he knows what's going on. He knows what his family is coming to say tomorrow when they come to meet with my family. So they came the following day. According to them, they said he was the one that said he can't go ahead with the marriage. Yet he had been telling me that it was his family that were not for the idea that he married somebody who's HIV positive. So now there were two stories there. Him saying that his family are not for the idea that he married somebody who's HIV positive, and then his family saying that no, he's the one that doesn't want to go ahead with the marriage. So my family just said, well, ours is the one who's sick, so we cannot force your son to marry her. If he doesn't want to marry her, well and good. We accept the fact that you want to withdraw from this marriage. They asked them about the lobola. Do you want it back? What about the things she got for her bridal shower? Do you want them to share? And they said they didn't want anything.
They just wanted everything.
They just wanted, yes, their wedding to be called off. That's all they came to tell us, that no, this marriage is not going ahead. Otherwise, the bridal shower things, they said she can keep them. The lobola, they also said you can also keep the lobola. We've not come to get anything. We've just come to tell you that the marriage is not going ahead. And that's how we broke up.
So how was life like after that? Were you depressed? I mean, this is somebody you loved so much, and then suddenly...
Yes, but you know, the funny part is the period that he started showing me
those signs.
He had come at some point, and we went to see our not our marriage counselor, our HIV counselor at Cara Counseling. And I remember that lady calling me aside without him, because usually we would have double sessions together with him, yes. But on that particular day, she asked to talk to me alone. So when we went to talk, just the two of us, she asked me a question. She said, Duba, are you prepared for this guy to leave you? So, and I, to be honest, I was even very upset with her because he kept on assuring me that he was going to marry me. I was like, why would she be so negative? This guy has assured me he's going to marry me. Then I said, no, he's not going to leave me. He says he's going to marry me. He says, you know what, Duba, in life you should always leave room for disappointment.
For disappointments, yes. Especially from men, you know.
Well, even women these days do disappoint men.
You're speaking up on men. So
she says, no, you should always leave room for disappointment. Then that sounded like it was something that probably he had mentioned something to her.
To say,
And
help
yes,
me
can you help
to,
prepare her?
To prepare her,
yes, so that when I do break the news to her, she'll be ready for it. That's how I felt. I felt like it was probably his decision to ask her to prepare me for the breakup, so that when he does leave, I would
You
have
are
thought
ready.
about it to say, okay, what if he leaves me? And for real, after she told me that, I did go back home and think about it. Like, what if for sure this guy leaves? And besides, I've noticed a change in his behavior.
Slight change in him.
So most likely, it may be going in that direction, because why didn't the wedding take place after I finished my medication? Why hasn't he been,
as consistent
as he
in terms of
was?
communication? Yeah.
Exactly. So I think
That was a
that
wake-up
period,
call for you.
yes, that was a wake-up call. And that period, it kind of like, I think, started preparing me for the breakup. So by the time, no wonder even the day before they came to tell us that they had called off the wedding, I gave him back the ring, because somehow I just felt like maybe this
Your
is
sixth
what...
sense was
yes,
telling
was
you
telling
that
me this is what they're coming to say. And when he got back the ring, I already knew what was going on.
So what are some of your worst moments after discovering that you were HIV positive? Did you... Do you remember of any, worst moments where you thought you were going to die? Because, when you talk HIV positive, the first thing that is hit, or the first thing that comes to mind is it's a death sentence. This is it, I'm going. Did you have such moments?
Just, after my ex-fiancé left me, for me, what gave me the will to keep on living, or to continue looking forward to the next day, was my son. So I'd look at him and I would say, okay, fine, I may be HIV positive, and I don't know, because then we didn't have free ARVs in government clinics, so I didn't know whether I was going to live long or whether I was going to die at some point.
How old was your son?
That time he was, because he was born in 1995, he was 2002, he was 7. So I'd look at him and I'd think to say, okay. And actually before that, there was one counselor at Carol Counseling who told me to say, do I imagine you kill yourself today because you're HIV positive, and then tomorrow they find a cure? Don't you think you would have lost out on a life that you could have lived? So that also kind of like gave me that hope, like, okay, maybe tomorrow they might find the cure and so on. So let me hold on. So I think my son really was the most instrumental,
the motivation
motivation in my life for me to hold on to life and not to give up. Okay, but of course, there would be those times when you'd sit and you start thinking to say, am I going to live to see this boy grow up? Am I going to die tomorrow? So that was normal. Those thoughts were normal. But I never reached a point where I was depressed, and probably I couldn't live life because I was depressed. I think because I had prepared myself, like I mentioned when that lady told me to say in life you should always leave room for disappointment. So maybe that is what really helped me. But I would have those moments where I would sit on my own and I'd look at my son and ask myself to say, am I going to see this boy grow up? Or am I going to die before I even see him grow up? Okay. But just seeing him there was
Gave
motivation enough, yes, for me to continue to hold on to life.
What was your relationship with God? Are you... Maybe the right question to ask is, are you a Christian?
Yes.
And how did your HIV status, how did that improve or, strengthen your faith in God?
Actually, I think my HIV status even pushed me closer to God. And that's another thing that really helped me to be strong, because I committed myself so much at church. I found myself, getting more involved in church activities, because in a way it was keeping me away from sitting and feeling sorry for myself and thinking about the fact that I'm HIV positive. So I got involved a lot with a lot of church activities. I joined a ministry at church where every Sunday I was required to be there, and then maybe during the week and so on. So that also kept me going because of that. Somehow I would say God was my comforter. Okay, being in his presence, doing his work was also comforting for me, because it gave me something to look forward to. I wasn't just sitting at home and throwing a pity party and probably thinking...
But you were just living life. And
I was just living life, yes.
And now you're married.
Yes, I was just living life.
Is your husband HIV positive?
No, he's HIV negative.
Oh, wow. Now, maybe let's quickly talk about how you met him.
Okay.
And where you are now.
Yeah. So, prior to me meeting him, remember I broke up with my ex-fiancé in 2002. And I only met my husband in 2013. So we're talking about 11 years of not being in a stable relationship. And not that I wasn't dating, no.
You were
But
dating.
because I was being rejected for the fact that I was HIV positive.
Did you come out in the open immediately? You
No,
knew you
no,
were
I didn't
HIV
come out in
positive?
the open. Only my family and my close friends knew about it. But then if somebody shows interest in me, like they want to date me, I'd be open to them about my HIV status, because I made a decision after my ex-fiancé left me to say, whoever is going to want to get into a relationship with me, I'll have to tell them about my HIV status. So I'd always be open with anyone that wanted to be in a relationship with me that I was HIV positive. And of course, they would stay around maybe 1 or 2 weeks.
And they run
then
away.
They disappear.
Were you taking medication? Were you on ARVs?
I only
immediately?
started taking medication in 2005 because 2001, 2002, I think until about 2004, government institutions did not have free ARVs.
You had to
Even
buy?
those, yes, you had to buy. Even when they were available, I think in 2004, they had to pay a certain amount. More like it was subsidized, where like the government pays half for you and then you pay the
You pay
remaining
half.
amount. Yes, but even that amount was
Quite
not
high.
so affordable for a lot of people. By the time it was 2005, when I got very sick, I had cryptococcal meningitis, which almost took my life. Now free ARVs were available. And that's how I was commenced on ARVs. So I was commenced on ARVs in 2005. So by the time I was meeting my husband in 2013, I had been on ARVs. But even then, even though I was on ARVs, I still had a challenge with my health. I had developed relapse again of TB. So I was having TB for the for the third time.
Yeah.
So the time I met him, actually, I was having my third bout of tuberculosis, and I was on medication again. So I met him in 2013. That's the time that I met him, and well, we met at a concert. Kings Malembe had a concert at Mulungushi International Conference Center. So my friend had invited me to go because she had 2 tickets, which she was supposed to have gone with her husband, but her husband was working that night, had some deadline, so he couldn't go with her. She called me at last minute and says, "No, are you available? Can we go for a concert?" I wasn't really in the mood, but
yeah,
but I just said, well,
that's
let
where
me
you were going to
accompany.
meet your husband.
I guess God had already planned everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, went for that concert and then sat next to this man who was busy making fun of people who were wearing fancy outfits at the concert. So anyone who would pass wearing fancy corsets, I mean, fancy clothes, yeah, he would make fun of them. Social concert, you know, somebody at a concert with a heel this high.
How are they even going to dance?
Exactly. So he was busy making fun of them. So we're like laughing it out, and just having like a light moment. And then at some point, my friend and the friend he came with both slept. So we remained the 2 of us, and we had nothing to do. So he was busy on his phone. He was on Facebook. I think I was also on Facebook, and I think I must have been the one that asked him, "What's your username on Facebook?" He says, "No, it's actually a bit difficult to find. Let me just type it in for you." So he got my phone, typed it in, and that's how we became friends on Facebook. Left the concert, and that was it. So one time when I was on Facebook, I saw him post that he was live on radio. And I tuned in, and then the voice sounded different from the person that I met at the concert. Like this person sounded more mature on radio. The one I met at the concert was
a bit young,
and
he was
just this bullying people around and laughing at people. So, so for me, I was like, is this really the same person as the person I met at the concert? So I think I inboxed him and I told him, I said, "Is it really you on radio?" He says, "Yes, why do you ask?" I said, "You sound different from the person I met at."
Okay, I want you to hold that thought. We take a break. When we come back, we continue talking about how this love story evolved into marriage.
Okay.
We take a short break, and when we come back, we continue talking to Duba Sakala. Do stay with us.
Natutu. Ndabola tunywe tuganga dawa ababalombe. Usimbi wangu bevo.
batate babya.
Umtoka kanya mukoko kabenzi nina.
Kutakulwa kamba toka kakasika coronavirus.
Ndawambira ndakwambira masiku tako niwati mvida. Bawushupa marashupa bawuso.
Waile mama.
Mashtazi waile.
Kuli zinto zinjemwe.
Yizinto bani mashtazi waile.
Oza. Ndari yowe. Iwe. Chachitika kunjengeni.
Ndaipompo nona.
Mtu wako olabereka kabotio. Wapimponera zinjinge.
Kwakasika ulwazi. Obulwazi batata tabuyanze kwendenda. Tabuyanze kwanzanya. Tabuyanze zokuja nkabantu banje. Obulwazi bulajaya. Apo obulwazi batata tabuyanze kuti chindi chonse nkamjani kabantu banje zokulumelesa nyanzi ape bulezi tondezo zakaina zokuteti muntu obulwazi ulabuchiswa zitondezo zakaina kulikuchiswa mutwe sini kolo mubiri kupia zazitondezo zakainezi obulwazi bulikwabila kwinda mukusamba kumanza chinchonse ansipa amanzi clean apa kunana akata kwakaitwa kuti nze cancer tiger.
Oho, hand sanitizer. Okay. Kubanga wakome naye, why? Kubanga wakome.
Remember to wash your hands with soap regularly. For more information, call 909. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health in partnership with Oxfam.
Welcome back. If you're joining me, I'm still talking to Duba Sakala, who is an HIV advocate and a fitness fanatic. Just before we went on break, she was talking about her love story that has now ended up into marriage. And I think it was only fair for us to bring in this lovely husband of hers, Mr. Edward Nkonde, who has joined us on set as they talk about their love story. I love the way you're sitting.
Thank you.
And welcome, Mr. Nkonde.
Well, thank you so much, Mangala.
I think it's only fair for us to talk about you, in your presence. Because, women can tend to talk about all the wrong things. So it's good that we have you,
Yeah, thank you so
to try
much.
and, navigate and make sure we talk about the right things. Now, she was talking about how you met. And maybe I'm going to spare Duba. I'll let you talk about, what was going through your mind when you met at the concert.
Okay, so when we met, we instantly became friends. That night, I remember that night we related like people who have known each other for a long time, because I was free to pass jokes, I was free to interact with her, like we've been friends even before that concert. Then later on we became friends on Facebook. Then that was it. She went her way early in the morning and I went my way. Never really communicated like on a serious note. I would like whatever she was posting. At times I would even comment. But the friendship continued, and I can't remember whether we had hit each other's inbox after that meeting. But I think a week later, when I was on radio, that was the first time she inboxed to ask if really I was the one on radio, because there was a difference from the person she had met at the concert and the person who was on radio. So I asked her to give me the phone number, so that I call just to confirm. Anyway, maybe that was a trick of asking for her contact.
For her number.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. So she dilly-dallied. She tried to play girl power here and there, but I insisted until she gave in, and she gave me all her 3 numbers. I called her on one of the numbers. Then from there on, I think we chatted for close to 2 or 3 hours non-stop. Every time I would want to talk on radio, I would put the call on hold. I talk, then back to the music. I'm back on this call with this lady. I think after that, we started arranging about us meeting now. I can't really remember where we met first, where our meeting point was, but I think I visited her.
No, I think he came home.
Yes, she invited me by her place. She said she wasn't comfortable to meet me anywhere else. So she invited me to her place. So there we chatted. Of course, she prepared coffee for me. The friendship started growing from there. I think 2 or 3 months into the friendship, during those first months, I would visit her. She would also visit me by my place.
Did you know her status at that time?
No, not at all. Now, the moment came when both of us knew that, okay, a friendship, I think it's going far.
Who knew first, her or you?
Both of us we knew because of the way we would relate. We were friends, but I think to some extent we used to treat each other like we are already in a relationship. Because we would check up on each other every morning, during the day, at night, and we would talk like maybe we'll call each other at 21, we'll be on phone. Phone kumatu. So we're just talking for hours.
Just talking about everything else.
We can't even remember what we used to talk about. So one day she invited me to go to her place, and she sat me down. She said, okay, we are both adults, we are both mature, and I know where this thing is heading to and where it will lead us to. But I wouldn't want you to find out when we are already into it, because it may be too late. And I want you, whatever decision you make, I want you to make your decision based on a well-informed platform. That's when she explained everything. She told me about her being HIV positive. I looked at her, the way she was looking. Anyway, you cannot tell by looking, but I looked at her and somehow I thought maybe this lady wants to chase me away. It is just one of those tricky that she wants to use to get rid of me. But before I would even say anything, she pointed at a bottle for ARVs. She said, have you seen that bottle? Those are my medications. Then she went on to explain that not only am I taking my ARVs, I'm also taking my TB drugs. And that is the bottle for my medication. There's also a card there for my TB.
What was going through your mind when you saw all those bottles? Because that was evidence enough.
I looked at her. I also looked at the bottles. I think one thing that really gave me courage to go on was the way she was looking. I knew that anyway, she may have this condition, but I don't think it is something very serious because she's taking good care of herself. She had explained how long she has been on medication and how it has been going for them, for her rather. Then I concluded that, okay, this person may be HIV positive, but she's taking good care of her. Anyway, I already had information about HIV, and I knew that someone being HIV wasn't a death sentence as long as they're taking good care of themselves. So I easily concluded to say, okay, if this person can look like this and she has been taking her medication consistently, then it's okay.
Is okay.
Then I told her that anyway, if that is your condition or if this is the situation you are in, I'm still ready to be with you. She looked at me, then I know deep down she thought maybe a guy, I think he's just trying to buy time, then after a week or two he would disappear.
Yeah.
Then like I always say, things started from there, days, weeks, months, years, and here we are today.
How long have you been married?
From 2015, though we knew each other in 2013. Yes.
Okay. in that 2 years, were there moments where you felt like, I'm taking a huge risk here? Should I or shouldn't I? You know, that ka Ubuntu kicking in.
Ka Ubuntu. Okay, so when after she told me about her status, I think I took it upon myself to start doing more research about HIV. Anyway, besides that, I also had other relatives
that were in
the same condition, and I knew that as long as someone is taking care of themselves, then there's no risk. Though then we did not know about the UU campaign that we're trying to promote now, the undetectable is equal to untransmittable. It wasn't there. We did not know anything about that. So I just said, okay, if this is the one, because the bond, the friendship was just too much.
Was too strong.
When someone is in love, certain things do not even matter. Yes, I think that was the situation.
So you were in love and you're still in love.
Yes.
He was blinded.
I like that.
Yeah,
he was blinded by her beauty.
Anyway, I wasn't really blinded because here I am still negative up to date. So I don't think it was a risk to some extent, but I think it was a better risk.
Yeah.
Yes. So during that that period, the first 2 years, I never really paid much attention. What I was interested in was to make sure that I encouraged her to continue taking her medication. And I think it was just after a year or close to a year when we discovered that there was even this thing called UU, undetectable is equal to untransmittable. Yes. So months into our relationship, we discovered, her doctor told her about the UU, that if the virus is suppressed in her system, it's undetectable, then she cannot transmit the virus to me, which was more like a answered prayer from
for you,
for both of us.
Okay.
Then we took a keen interest to know more about that. Going forward, we realized that we can live like any normal couple. We can have children who will be born negative. And in 2015, December, she conceived. Come 2016, September, we were blessed with a baby boy who is now 5 years old. He was born negative, and he's still negative up to now.
So how often do you do your tests?
I used to do every after 3 months, though she used to mock. She used to mock me that one day uzakachipeza cha meno ufuna because you cannot continue. For the past 7-8 years we've been together, you've maintained your status. What is it that you're looking for? But just for our own good, because I'm not doing that for myself. I'm also doing it for her. The moment that I get infected, right now her viral load is suppressed. But if I get it, it means that I'll start reinfecting her. Yes. So the best thing for me is to keep myself safe, and I have to make sure that I always, time and again, I find out what my HIV status is. Yes. So I used to do it every after 3 months, but about 5 months ago, she was advised by her doctor from the center that she goes to for art that it is not necessary for me, or it is not like a mandatory thing for me to continue testing every after 3 months. I can now do it once a year or twice a year.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now I know there are a lot of people that are watching you now, you know, that think that, you know, HIV is not there, you know. We've heard this, you know, people think, is a matenda ya kudala yaje, you know. And there are also people that are in your position where you are a discordant couple, isn't it? You know, one is positive, one is negative. What message would you like to give to these two different groups of people? One, the ones that think that HIV is not there, and the ones that are in a similar situation or position like you. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so if you see the t-shirt is wearing, it's written Ukani
Ukani
Manje.
Manje.
So this is a project that is going on right now, where they're trying to create sensitization about the fact that HIV is still with us. So basically, Ukani Manje is saying, wake up now, because HIV is still with us. Like you have said, some people think, matenda ya kudala,
COVID.
Yeah, and the reason why is because a lot of us are on ARVs and
It can't show,
it
yeah.
can't show that we're HIV positive. So people think, it's a matenda kudala, manje vinapola, you know, and with this thing they are calling undetectable, people feel like when you're undetectable, then you're
You are
HIV
healed.
negative, you're healed. Yeah, so there's that misconception going around. But the fact is, HIV is still with us. And just recently when we were commemorating the World AIDS Day, it was reported that in the last 1 year, we recorded 51,000 new cases of HIV infection.
For Zambia alone.
For Zambia alone.
alone, yes.
Way too high.
Yes, that's way too high. So if we're saying HIV is not there, then those 51,000 cases, where did they come from? If we are going to say that HIV is not there. So those cases are enough to show us that HIV infection is still going on. And the only reason why there isn't so much focus on HIV anymore is because COVID came in.
So the focus has
so
now
the focus
shifted.
has shifted to COVID because now this is a new virus, and now they're trying to deal with this new virus because they know how to manage HIV, but they don't know how to contain COVID-19. We keep on having these new variants of COVID-19. Yeah, so it's something that now almost every scientist is trying to focus on. How do we end this pandemic? You know, people are still dying and so on. So maybe that is the reason why people may tend to think that HIV is no longer with us. But the numbers that we had, that were reported on World AIDS
That was very scary.
should be enough to tell us, yes.
That this thing is
Yes,
still with
it's
us.
still with us.
Wow.
Meaning that people
have to
yes,
pay
they
attention.
They have to
and
wake
still,
up, pay
you know,
attention, yes,
yeah,
that HIV
I
is
like
still with
that.
us. So for me, I would advise them to look at the numbers that we were reported on World AIDS Day. That should be enough for you to know that HIV is still with us. And then also, if you feel that you cannot get HIV, go to visit clinics or health centers and ask them, and they'll give you the statistics that they have in the clinics. Then that will be able to wake you up.
Oh my goodness, you know what we're going to do after this interview? All of us are going to go for a test.
Good, great. Actually, I like that.
I know, right? Now, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll start with Edward. If you were on your deathbed today and God gave you a second chance to live, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? That's a tricky one. I think to listen to what our parents were telling us, I think that would be the best. That is one thing that I would want to abide to, because anyway, our parents used to tell us that no, mwana wangu azafipeza kusogolo vanofuna, wait, concentrate on school, do this, do that, then other things you'll find them in future. Also about HIV, I feel like she has already said, a lot of people do not have enough information. If only we can start sensitizing our children about the dangers of HIV now, I think I would do that. I would focus more on that, because if you look at the statistics that she has given, 51,000, and you find that most of the infections from the ranges of age range from 15 to 24.
Wow.
Meaning that these people do not have the information that us were privileged to be brought up in the 90s had.
Wow.
Right now, these people do not have any information. I think that is one of the things that I can try to work on, and sensitize people that it does not choose color, it does not choose age. It can attack anyone at any time.
Wow.
Yes.
Well said. Duba?
If I was given another chance, I'll remain a virgin until I'm married. Because for me to find myself to be HIV positive is because I didn't keep myself, okay? I decided to engage in sexual relations before I was married, and I didn't know the status of these men that I was engaging in sexual relations with. In as much as, yes, I do love my firstborn child, in as much as, now that I'm living a positive life, I'm able to encourage people out there and to be able to help them to live a positive life. I don't think I would want to go through the experience that I went through as a person living with HIV. Where I am today, I may be okay with it, but there was a painful period where I was sick with these diseases and so on, and it was never an easy thing to be in a sick bed for like a month, to be in hospital for like a month, because you have to recover from cryptococcal meningitis, okay, or you have to recover from tuberculosis. So the illnesses themselves, I'll be honest with you, are not something that I would want to relive again. So if I had to be given another chance to live again, I would stay a virgin until I'm married.
Wow.
And hopefully after I'm married, be able now to preach abstinence to young ones and make sure that they do not make the mistake that I probably made for me to find myself to be HIV positive, so that they keep themselves and they don't have to go through what I had to go through, because it wasn't a pleasant experience. It was painful to be sick for a month. You're sick, you're in your bed for a month. It was very painful, yeah.
Wow. Duba and Edward, thank you so much. You have encouraged a lot of people I know. You know, there are people that think that, you know, the moment you are told you're HIV positive, that's the end of you. But you have clearly demonstrated that, you know, love surpasses all, I think. And because, you know, because of your love, here you are today, married with a child, and hopefully you have 2 more to make it 4. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll have you back on Ignite again.
Thank you so much.
So there you have it. I was talking to Duba, Sakala, and Edwin Konde, who one is living HIV positive, and this is Duba, and Edward is negative, but they're married with a child. And what are they telling you? That it's possible to actually live a positive life. All you have to do is look after yourself and obviously put everything in God's hands. This has been Mwangala Chakalashi Santos. Join me for another exciting episode of Ignite with Mwangala.